Only two directors in the entire history of Indian cinema have made two films that cross 1000 crores each. SS Rajamouli and Aditya Dhar. Rajamouli took 20 years to get there. Bahubali 1 in 2015, Bahubali 2 in 2017. Aditya Dhar did it in 3 films. URI in 2019, Dhurandhar in 2025, Dhurandhar 2 in 2026. The entire Dhurandhar duology, rupees 3000 crore worldwide in 4 months. And here's what makes that completely insane. Before URI, nobody had heard of Aditya Dhar. He was a lyricist. He had written songs for Kabul Express. He had worked as an assistant to Priyadarshan. He had never directed a single frame of a feature film in his life. So how do you go from unknown assistant director to the most commercially successful debut director in Indian cinema? And then double down and do it again in 7 years. That's what today's video is about. Not just the numbers, the formula. Let me tell you a few things about Aditya Dhar that most people don't know, because they explain a lot about how he makes films. He was born in 1983 in New Delhi into a Kashmiri Pandit family. He grew up in Delhi, went to Hindu college, and here's the first thing. He had severe dyslexia during his school years. Serious enough that it caused him real academic difficulties. Reading and writing, the two things you'd think are fundamental to becoming a filmmaker and screenwriter, these were genuinely hard for him. Before films, he was a cricketer. He played at the under 19 level. Sport, specifically the kind of sport that demands physical discipline, tactical thinking, and mental resilience under pressure, is baked into how he thinks about storytelling. He entered the film industry as a lyricist, wrote songs for Kabul Express in 2006, then moved into dialogue writing, worked on Akrosh and Kaise under Priyadarshan. So he had an unusually complete education in films. Lyrics, dialogue, assistant direction, observing one of India's most prolific directors from the inside. Then came the near miss. His first attempt at directing was a film called Raat Baki, backed by Karan Johar's Dharma production, starring Fawad Khan and Katrina Kaif. In 2016, just as production was about to begin, the URI attack happened. The ban on Pakistani artists in India followed. Overnight, the film was shelved. Most people would have been devastated. Dhar saw the story of the surgical strike, the 11-day retaliation that followed, and decided that was the film he was actually supposed to make. URI the Surgical Strike released on January 11, 2019. Budget 44 crore. Worldwide gross 342 crores. National Award for Best Director. The highest grossing debut directed Indian film at the time. But none of those numbers explain why the film worked. The numbers are the result. The craft is the reason. And when you look carefully at URI, you can see 5 very specific decisions that Dhar made, decisions that became the foundation for everything that followed. Decision 1. He built the film on obsessive research. Everything in the surgical strike operation was classified. There were no government approved accounts. So Dhar spent 5 to 6 months studying publicly available papers, journalist reports, academic accounts. He triangulated the most likely route of the mission, the probable chronology, the plausible dialogues. In his own words, if 80% of journalists agreed that a specific location was attacked, he accepted the majority opinion. He built a fictional frame around the most probable facts. Decision 2. He structured the film in chapters. URI is divided into 5 named chapters. This is not a Bollywood convention. It is a literary technique, borrowed from books and long-form journalism. It gives the audience permission to process the film in sections, creates natural emotional beats, and allows Dhar to shift tone between chapters without losing the audience. He would carry this chapter structure into Dhurandhar, where it became even more crucial given the runtime. Decision 3. He cast one hero and built every other characters to serve that hero. Vicky Kaushal as Major Vihan Shergill, Paresh Rawal as the Ajit Doval inspired strategist. Every supporting character is an amplifier. They make Vihan bigger. They don't compete with him. This is actually a harder choice than it looks. Most Bollywood directors add characters to add screen time or accommodate producer relationships. Dhar added characters only when they advance the plot or deepen the hero's emotional stakes. Decision 4. He embedded genuine emotion inside an action film. There is an Alzheimer's storyline in URI. Vihan's mother, played with heartbreaking simplicity, is losing her memory. This has nothing to do with the surgical strike. It has everything to do with why the audience cried in the second half. Dhar understood something that a lot of commercial directors don't. Patriotism by itself is not an emotion that sustains for 2 hours. Grief, loyalty, the fear of losing someone, these are emotions that sustain. Decision 5. He treated action as information, not spectacle. The combat sequences in URI are not the flashiest in Indian cinema, but they feel real. The hand-to-hand combat is visceral. The infiltration sequences are tense in a way a real operation would be tense. Not because of the background music, but because of silence, the darkness, and things you can almost hear. Critics specifically praise the single-shot combat sequences. Dhar learned from war films, The Hurt Locker, Black Hawk Down, that precision communicates more danger than explosion. Now URI was the proof of concept. Dhurandhar was the proof of skill. Dhar took each of these 5 URI decisions and amplified them. Let me show you how. URI had 5 months of research. Dhurandhar had the equivalent of a 2-year intelligence deep dive. The film has a dedicated research consultant, Aditya Dhar, the senior executive editor at NDTV for geopolitics and national security. He was brought on board after Dhar learned about his documentary on the assassination of one of the IC-814 hijackers. The screenplay loosely incorporates IC-814, the 2001 Parliament attack, the 2008 Mumbai attacks, Operation Larry, the 2014 election, a genuinely complex geopolitical tapestry. URI had 5 chapters. Dhurandhar is structured in multiple named chapters across a 214-minute runtime. The Times of India reviewer specifically noted that the runtime rarely feels overbearing because the chapter structure gives the audience constant landmarks. URI had Vicky Kaushal and Paresh Rawal. Dhurandhar has Ranveer Singh, Akshay Khanna, Sanjay Dutt, R. Madhavan, Arjun Rampal, Sara Arjun, Rakesh Bedi. But here's the crucial thing. It's still structured around one hero. Ranveer's Hamza Ali Mazari is the center. Every other character orbits him. Anurag Kashyap, who called Dhurandhar a courageous mainstream film comparable to Hurt Locker, specifically praised how Dhar manages the ensemble without losing the protagonist's centrality. URI had an Alzheimer's storyline to carry the emotional weight. Dhurandhar has Hamza's relationship with the Pakistani family he is embedded within, people he genuinely comes to care about, whose destruction is the cost of his mission. That moral complexity, the intelligence agent who must cause harm to the people he's grown to love, is the film's real emotional engine. And the action? URI was precise. Dhurandhar is surgical in a different way. The hand-to-hand combat is, according to multiple reviewers, the most realistic they've seen in an Indian film. No superhero physics, no gravity-defying stunts, just the physics of real violence, which is somehow more disturbing and more impressive than the alternative. The commercial result? URI earned 342 crore on a 44 crore budget, a multiplier of nearly 8x. Dhurandhar earned 1,350 crore. Dhurandhar 2 earned 1,800 crore. The duology combined 3,000 crore. First Indian film series ever to achieve that. And Dhar became only the second Indian director after SS Rajamouli to make 2 consecutive 1,000 crore film. Okay, I've walked you through 3 films. Now let me give you the actual framework. 4 things that Aditya Dhar does in every film that explain why they work. Pillar 1. Research before everything else. Dhar does not begin with a star. He does not begin with a concept. He begins with documented reality, events that actually happened, geopolitical conflicts that are a matter of record, and then builds a fictional narrative around that documented spine. This gives his films what I'd call earned authenticity. The audience can sense that the world of the film is grounded in something real, even when the specific characters and dialogue are invented. Pillar 2. Chapter structure as emotional architecture. Every Dhar film is broken into named chapters. This is not a stylistic work, it's a storytelling technology. It allows him to make very long films without losing the audience's attention, because each chapter has its own internal momentum. It allows him to shift tone from action to grief to political intrigue without it feeling jarring. And it creates a sense of reading a serious work, not watching a commercial film. It elevates the material. Pillar 3. One clear hero, layered with genuine private grief. Vihan's mother, Hamza's surrogate family in Pakistan. These are not subplots. They are the emotional legitimacy of the film. Dhar seems to understand that mass Indian audience don't just want action. They want to feel something specific and personal for the hero before the climax. The patriotism doesn't land unless the grief is real. He always builds the grief first. Pillar 4. Action that communicates reality rather than fantasy. In a country where mass entertainment has traditionally meant increasingly impossible action sequences, cars flying, heroes punching through walls, Dhar goes the other direction. His action is precise, disciplined, and sometimes quiet. The most intense sequences in URI and Dhurandhar are not the loudest. They are the ones where you can't hear anything except footsteps and breathing. That restraint communicates danger more effectively than any explosion. Now, before we talk about what's next, I want to address the thing in the room that I have been deliberately building towards. The propaganda question. Dhurandhar has been called nationalistic propaganda by serious critics, not just internet commentators. Uday Bhatia in Mint called it propaganda in service of a hawkish India. Anuj Kumar in The Hindu called it chest thumping. The Guardian called URI as patriotic by some, propaganda by others. These are not dismissible voices. And here's my honest take. Both things can be true at the same time. Dhar's films carry a clear political worldview. They celebrate the Indian security state. They portray Pakistani institutions almost exclusively as antagonists. They were made during a period of BJP governance and they align with that political moment in ways that are not accidental. That is a legitimate critical observation. Still, the craft is exceptional. The research is real. The emotional storytelling is sophisticated. The action is technically brilliant. Anurag Kashyap, who is not anyone's idea of a nationalist filmmaker, praised Dhurandhar's execution specifically. SS Rajamouli and Madhur Bhandarkar praised Dhurandhar 2's direction after watching it. Now, what's next? Dhar's next announced project is The Immortal Ashwathama, a mythological superhero film originally announced with Vicky Kaushal that has been gestating for years. The project has been repeatedly paused, reportedly due to VFX budget challenges and scheduling conflicts. With the Dhurandhar franchise complete, the expectations are that this will become his next major production. There is also a Dhurandhar documentary, a behind-the-scenes feature, reportedly planned for theatrical release in late 2026, which in itself tells you something about where his franchisee has gone. You make a documentary about a film series when the film series has become large enough to be culturally significant in its own right. The big question is whether the formula translates to mythology. URI and Dhurandhar worked because they were grounded in documented living geopolitical reality. Ashwathama operates in a mythological universe. The research pillar, documentary spine, those don't apply in the same way. Whether Dhar can adapt his formula to a genre that demands a different kind of world building is the most interesting question in Hindi cinema right now. Quick recap. Aditya Dhar built a 3,000 crore franchise in 3 films using 4 consistent repeatable tools. Research grounded in documented reality, chapter structure that manages long runtimes without losing the audience, a hero anchored by private grief, not just national duty, and action that communicates real danger through restraint rather than spectacle. He is not an accident, he is a system, and whether you agree with his politics or not, understanding how he works is understanding something important about where Hindi cinema is going. Now I want to hear from you. Which Aditya Dhar film do you think is the strongest? URI, Dhurandhar 1 or Dhurandhar 2? And do you think the immortal Ashwathama can carry the same formula into mythology? Drop it in the comments. These are discussions I actually want to have. If you're watching this channel for the first time, this is what I do. Not just reviews, not just box office updates, the actual story behind Indian cinema. The craft, the business, the people building it. If that's what you want, subscribe. आदित्य धर ने जो ब्लूप्रिंट बनाया है वो किसी एक डायरेक्टर की स्टोरी नहीं है, वो इंडियन सिनेमा की डायरेक्शन है और वो डायरेक्शन बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग जगह जा रही है. Until next time.